22-year-old Giovanni Grey, a criminal justice student at SUNY Delhi, was pulled over by the New York State Police on March 21, 2025, for an equipment violation as he was turning onto campus. He believed the stop was racially motivated and discovered that there are many things a motorist can be ticketed for. He shares his experience with WIOX radio host and SUNY Delhi criminal justice adjunct professor Joyce St. George.
Giovanni, say hey.
Hello.
So Giovanni, I sort of gave kind of like a capsule of what was going on, of the stop. And so I'm going to ask you to talk about it a little bit more. When did you know that the police were following you or stopping you?
I would say as soon as I got near the school, so as soon as I was about to make the right onto the campus, that's when I seen the car behind my car.
So you were on Main Street?
Yeah, I was on Main Street.
Okay. And you, they said that it was because your light was out?
Yes.
That they stopped you. Was the light in the front or the back?
In the back.
It was in the back?
Yeah.
So they saw the back and that's when they pulled you over?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things that you talk about is you're African American, and one of the things that you've been talking about is that you were stopped because you were driving while black. Can you talk to that? Because a lot of people don't get it. Speak to that.
All right. So yeah, I feel like the main reason that I was pulled over was because I was driving while black, meaning that the officer could pull me over for basically any reason, just because of the reason I'm black or I'm African American. Now the officer could clearly see inside my car because my passenger window is tinted. So looking inside, you will be able to tell there's two African American in the car. And we gave the officer no other reason to pull us over but the reason that he stated. So that's what I mean by driving while black.
Do you think that it was because it was 1:30 in the morning and, you know, a car was going into the campus?
That could be a factor too. That possibly could.
Because, from a law enforcement perspective, if I was patrolling and I saw a car going into the campus at 1:30 in the morning, I probably would stop you. It would make sense. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it's a hard thing to talk about driving while black, and I'm not denying it. I think it was when he smelled the weed.
Yeah.
That kind of concretized his feeling like, oh, these kids are black, they smoked weed.
They're definitely doing something.
Driving while black. That was my feeling when I heard it. But this whole feeling, and I've heard it from other people, other students, this whole feeling of I can't go into town because, something's gonna happen because I'm a different color. You mentioned that in class, and I've heard it many, many times. So is that based on experience or fear or rumor? What's that based on?
I would say it's based off a little bit of everything, based off rumors, experience. Like just going into town, it's a whole different feeling, especially being like an African American person, it definitely is a different feeling. Because I'm not used to people that's up here. I'm not used to living up here or being around people that's been up here their whole life. And I would say they're not really used to people that's of my color or my culture. So, it is, to say the least, it's like an uneasy feeling because we really never know, honestly. You never know what type of side you're going to give people. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to say that there isn't good people in the town. because I definitely have my fair share of good people, but there are some, bad fruits from the tree.
Yeah. So I always liken it, I've traveled, and I remember being in Colombia a lot, and being in a foreign country, and not speaking the language, not knowing the customs. I always felt like, like a third wheel. I felt like I don't belong here. And even though people were nice to me, if somebody just gave me a look, I was like, I'm a dead person. I don't know what's going on. What did I do wrong? And I would do things wrong culturally because I didn't know the customs. Is that the kind of feeling you're talking about?
Yeah, I would say I could relate to that.
Yeah, because up here it's a very different type. Rural New York is very different from. You're in New York, you live in the city.
In the city, yeah.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah, it would be the same thing as if we took a couple of the young people from New York, from up here, and took them down to the city, which I've done, and they have freaked out. They would cling to me. Real fear.
I believe it.
Yeah, real fear. It's a terrible thing. So tell me, did you speak to anybody? I know you spoke with Lillian Brown, and what about around the school?
Yeah, so I've spoken to Lillian Brown, I've spoken to Purdy.
That's Simon Purdy.
Yeah, Simon Purdy.
Who teaches criminal justice.
I have a meeting with Kaster, that's another one of my teachers. So really I've just been trying to gather information of how people see the situation and their input on the situation. Just trying to gather it and analyze it like that.
Can I ask why?
So basically I just want perspectives from everybody, because I know that the people that I'm going to, they have backgrounds within law enforcement, so they can help push me or lead me into the right direction. Because I do want change to come about this. I feel like there has to be something that's done, because police officers, I'm not trying to discredit them, but it's more bad going on than a college kid pulling onto campus at 1-something in the morning. And I feel like there's just better stuff for police officers to be doing rather than just pulling me over for doing absolutely nothing,
Yeah. And so you're going to some of the professors. What would you want to have done?
One of my teachers brought up possibly a workshop, which I'm 100% for that. And it could be a workshop for both college kids that have cars up here, and letting them know what they can be dinged on and what they can be pulled over for. Because me, I wasn't aware of a lot of stuff that I could be pulled over for. And once again, cops, they know a lot of stuff that we could be pulled over for, so they're looking for that. And they just see it as more money that they can make, even though we're college kids, So it could be a workshop for that, just letting college kids know about their cars and what they can be pulled over for. And as far as the policing, a workshop letting them know stuff like this, it will hurt. It will furthermore hurt the relationship of the community, because you're just creating more of a barrier and adding on to the barrier that's already there. Because people like me, we're already, timid to come into the town, because, it's a predominantly Caucasian town. I'm African American, so I just don't know how to just go in there really being myself. So having to deal with situations like this, and then when it gets out and other people of my culture sees this, it just adds more fuel onto the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And they wonder why it's like this. And this is exactly why.
Yeah. Those are very good points and actually very good goals. And I think we can make them happen. I know Simon Purdy and I have been talking about these kind of workshops. And I think the point that you're making about the relationship between police and young people and police and this college is, for me, it's very important. This college is very important to this area. And I mean, it provides a lot of jobs, it provides clout. A lot of people who come here stay here and serve the area. And I would hope that more people would do that. If we have that kind of reputation where everything happens in the college and we keep it separate from the community, that's not a good thing. And so and I think people have been trying for years and years and years to find ways of bridging this, set of buildings on this hill with what goes on down the road. And, it's not impossible to do, but it does take some work. And it takes maybe a bad incident to turn things into something positive. And it takes somebody like you to point it out. Because I know that this has happened before, but people hide it. What would you want the college to do?
Honestly, I would just like the college just to recognize it and acknowledge it, I just want the college to know that, this is a problem, racism is alive, and I want them to acknowledge it and at least show some type of support that, they're not with it, they're against it, and, they support me in which way I'm going, because, that would honestly make me feel like, the school actually does look out for the students, and the school actually does support me, but as of right now, I have some faculty from the school that's been supporting me, and I tried to reach out to the help of the president, and before, she had blocked me, but
She blocked you?
Yeah, she had blocked me on Instagram, but I ended up seeing her on person, and I had a conversation with her, so she had unblocked me, and we discussed a time for a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So I will have a meeting with her. But I would just like the school to just acknowledge it and know that this is problems that some of your students are facing, and you guys should be looking out for us.
Let me ask you a question. I want you to think about this. Was there anything during the interaction with the officers? And the officers were pretty young. And I take that into account because young officers have so much to learn. And having been one myself, I could tell you how many times I messed up, not knowing I was doing it. Was there anything, any moment that you felt that the officer was leaning on the racist line, like that you felt at this point, this is, what was happening, that he was treating you in a different way? Did you feel like any of that going on during the interaction?
Honestly, I felt it as soon as I got pulled over, if I'm being completely honest. Once again, he says it's because my light was out. Once again, if I'm a cop, I'm not really going to do that pullover just off the fact I could see your license plate. And I honestly just feel like from when you seen that it was two African American guys in the car, that's when we started the racial profile.
Okay. But in his communication style, anything, it was just always there?
I mean, his communication style. I don't know if I'm able to tell her for that. Really, about how I feel is just I feel like it started once I got pulled over.
Yeah.
So maybe it was through his communication style.
Okay. All right. Because as I was hearing him, it sounded a little condescending. But he sounded very impatient with you.
Yeah, but for sure he was very impatient, trying to. I feel like some of the times he tried to just like combine what I was saying, combine words.
Yeah,
You know, I wouldn't be saying that.
right. He wasn't really listening to you. He was just picking up words that you said.
Yeah.
And the example I've been using is he asked you if you ate, and you said, well, I have a pizza. And then he said, no, did you eat earlier? And you said, well, I had a Mac from McDonald's. And he said, oh, McDonald's is serving pizza? So he put words that you had been using, and he just wasn't really listening. He was just picking up words.
Yep.
And the same thing with, him asking you if you had been drinking, and you said, I don't use alcohol. And he said, well, how many drinks have you had? And you had to say it 4 or 5 times, I do not use any alcohol. So, I mean, it was very interesting. But I'm always curious about that interaction, and if that interaction was twisted in some way that it made it feel even more racist or less racist, or, and I think that the audience is begging to learn that, because if you're somebody, and I don't care who you are, I don't care what color you are, when there's an interaction and all of a sudden you're feeling challenged, the first thing you do is say, what did I say? What did I say? And there are times you really don't know what you said or what you did. So I think that people are constantly saying, what did I say? What did I do that offended you? Because I need to know. And, with all this going on with language and all that, I think people are very, very interested in that. So that's why I asked. I think you're very brave. And I remember when we talked about it in class. So one of the things for listeners, one of the things that I asked Giovanni after this happened is if he would be willing to talk about this in class after it happened. And Giovanni said yes. Why?
I said yes because honestly, I don't have a problem with speaking out, especially if it's for a good reason and to bring about change, and it's something that is important and should be discussed about. That's why I had no problem about talking about it in class.
Well, what was your take on how the class answered?
I think the class answered it very well. I feel like everybody had something to say about it, and I just felt a lot of support from my classmates too, like a couple of girls in the class even said that, they felt like I was racially profiled. And yeah.
Were you surprised?
No, I wasn't. I mean, I knew what it was, but maybe I was more surprised to hear it from them as far as that, but I already knew that, it was racial.
No, but were you surprised by the reactions of the students?
Oh yes. I was kind of surprised, just off the fact because I'm African American and they're Caucasian, so they probably would see it a different way, but they were able to open their eyes and see it out of a different lens. So that did surprise me.
Yeah, I think a lot of, especially your generation is way more aware than, say, my generation. Forget about it. your generation in so many ways is much more multicultural and appreciative of the different cultures and aware of the holds that we still have in those interactions and relationships. I was so impressed with the students, and especially some of the white students who went,
Yep.
That was, I mean, they were the ones, they were actually more emphatic about it than you were at times. And I just felt that you needed to hear that. I needed to hear that. And I think that because our class is kind of 50-50, I mean, it's pretty multicultural.
Yeah.
And it seemed like the class itself needed to talk about it, especially after the class before. And then this happens, and here we are talking about systemic racism, and then that night, or the night after, this happens to you, and then the next Tuesday, here we are talking about real life situations, and I think the class needed to talk about it, and they're still talking about it. Especially, I'm not going to mention names, but the one who talked about the white kids who party every weekend and never get in trouble.
Yep.
And, I'm kind of hoping she makes a complaint.
I would hope too.
Because it seems like she and her roommates have a hard time sleeping at night because the partying goes on. And she doesn't really know what to do. And that's a common problem with a lot of college students who rent or who have dorms. But I felt like they were so on the ball. And, other people who I've spoken to about the situation have been very supportive of you. They've also been supportive of police until they gave you tickets. I think that, again, 1:30 in the morning, a couple of guys going into the campus, I'd have stopped you. I would have just wanted to know, who are you? Do you belong there? And once I would have seen your ticket, your IDs, and your sticker, I'd have gone, have a good day, or have a good night, because I knew you belonged there. To stop you and then start with the tickets, I think is when they went wrong. That's my concern. Did they do it because of your color? I don't know if we'll ever know that. But it feeds the beast. Here we are trying to develop relationships. You're going to be a cop. Or are you? Are you still going to go in?
National Guard, police officer, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah. But you still want to go?
Yeah.
So here you are, a criminal justice student. You get stopped by cops. You go through this experience and you still want to go into criminal justice.
It has to be like change. It has to start with somebody, And if I let this affect my experience, I feel like if I let this affect my experience, I would be doing a bad job just, with my overall character. That's how I feel. So I just can't really let it affect me. I gotta let it change me for the better. So hopefully I can see things through a better lens, through a better light. And hopefully I could create change in the near future.
You're listening to Joyce St. George and Music Matters on WIOX Community Radio, 91.3 FM, 107.5 FM if you happen to be on the campus of SUNY Delhi. And you can get us anywhere, anytime, anyway. All you gotta do is go to WIOXradio.net.org and you can just stream us. So there. Lots and lots of ways of getting to us. Anyways, I'm talking to Giovanni Grey, who was a student here at SUNY Delhi and was stopped by police last Friday at 1:30 in the morning because he had a license plate light, 102, that was out. Woe is you, having that license plate out. Jeez, that's criminal. Come on, lock him up. Yeah, and because of that, he really went through a bit of an experience. And what we're not talking about is, I want to go back to the sobriety test. Because as soon as you opened that door and they smelled a little bit of that weed, man, that was it, right?
Yep.
And I remember hearing the police officer saying, "Whoa, that car reeks, reeks of weed." What, did you have a tree in there? And so once you opened that door, once he smelled that, he had you. And he kept asking you, when did you smoke? And you were having a hard time answering that question. Were you nervous or?
It wasn't that I was nervous, just I honestly couldn't remember because once again he had put me over at 1:30 a.m. in the morning, so a whole new day begun. Like I said, I told him I smoked earlier in the day. Earlier in the day, probably around like, I don't even know, like 10 or 11 or something like that. So to be honest, I couldn't give you an exact time. And I'm telling the officer it was early in the day. So he should have known from right there it's a whole new day. The only reason I felt like he did all that is because of his smell. And once again, if you smoke in your car, it's a hard odor to get out, you know. So it just stays in there.
And I remember you saying, I'm 22 years old, it is legal. So then he started giving you sobriety tests.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So at this point, he told me to come out the car. And that's when I started recording. And the first test he gave me, I did it. And it took a while, and I felt like he was just doing a whole lot of stuff that he didn't need to do in front of my face, just trying to get me to mess up because I felt like obviously the officer knew that I wasn't high just off the way I was responding, and off the first test, I completed it, and I just guess he wasn't satisfied after that, so he gave me another test. I did that test, and I told him it's cold outside, I'm shaking. Like, he could literally see me shaking. I'm really shaking to the point where, you know, and the officer tells me, oh, it's all right, don't worry, you're good. And so I'm still doing this test. I complete the test, I pass it. Now, at this point in my head, I'm just like, there's no reason for this. At this point, I feel like he's just trying to get me for a DUI, even though I'm not under the influence whatsoever. He's just trying to. So after the second DUI test, I think it's done. I'm about to go back to the car at this point. That's when his partner starts woken up, and then the officer that gives me the DUI, that's gonna be the DUI test, is just out of nowhere asks me, so what did you have to drink today? And I look at him like he has to be playing, and I tell him, officer, I don't drink alcohol. And then he repeats it again, how many drinks did you have today? So at this point, I really think he's joking. And so I'm like, this is crazy. And then he's like, all right, I'm going to give you another test. So I'll do that test, and I'll pass that test too. So he just wasn't satisfied. He just wasn't satisfied that I passed every DUI test that he gave me. He was trying to arrest me. He wasn't satisfied. So once he told me to go back to the car, that's when they came and tried to get me for every little thing they could get me for, because I passed every single DUI test that they gave me. That's what they was looking to get me for. And you know, I wasn't under the influence. I don't usually do stuff like that, you know. I live life how it should be lived. I'm a good citizen. I do what I have to do. I do what I'm supposed to do. Many of my friends could vouch that for me. There's people out there that's doing way worse stuff like murder, rape, stuff like that, and you're over here trying to bust my chops. I don't understand.
So when you finished the third one, when did they finally stop giving you tests? What did they finally say, okay, no more, or?
I can't really remember, but I remember after the third test, when I told him I was finished and I told him it was 30 seconds, he said, all right. And I think I waited there for like 5 minutes or like something like that. And he said, all right, you're good. You can go back to your car. And then I remember I was like by my car, I was standing outside my car because I was trying to listen to what they were saying. And then he just told me to just go in my car. So after that, I couldn't really hear what they were saying because, I was in the car. So.
And did they go around the car and look at it?
Yeah, that's when. And then once I came back in my car, that's when they came up to the car and going around it, looking at it, asking me questions about this and that. And mind you, once I was getting the DUI, his partner was asking my friend that was in the car all types of questions about the car as if the car is his. As if the car is registered in his name, just asking crazy questions about the car, like he's gonna know it's my car. I don't understand.
Yeah. Wow. So, okay, and they finally left. They gave you 4 tickets?
Yeah, they gave me 4 citations. So when they came back and they gave me the 4 citations, I took them and I asked for their badge numbers and their name. I got that, and then that's when the officer, I don't want to, I'm not sure if he said it, but it seemed like he said when he was walking away, stay safe and stay drunk. And then I blew the window down and I asked him to repeat what he had said. And he said, I said stay safe and stay dry. Now I'm not sure, he could have said that, I'm not sure, but it seemed like he said what he said the first time.
And after they left, what did you do?
After they left, I waited for him to pull up, and my friend had seen the whole thing. He was coming down the hill, so he literally had called me right when it finished. And I told him to just meet me up at the University Police Department lot, UPD. So I went in there and I complained to them in there, and that's really all I could really do at that point.
Can I ask you what possessed you to think to do that? Because that was brilliant.
I just know that they're all interconnected, I just know that the UPD works with this, Delhi County Police, which works with the State Trooper Police. Like, you guys are all police departments, so you guys have to all somewhat, work together. So that's why.
And how was their response?
So when I came in there, there wasn't really any university police in there. It was more as that's people that, you know what I mean? So like when I first came in there, I broke down because, of what just happened, I didn't expect for that to happen. So I came in there and I started crying, I broke down, I was expressing to them like basically I got pulled over for no reason, not even basically, I got pulled over for no reason. Just expressing to them what happened, telling them the situation, and they were telling me to, I forgot what they had told me, but they told me, I'm pretty sure they told me to email someone. They were trying to give me directions. They were trying to give me directions to put me in the right way, for sure. But I just went in there and I expressed how I felt.
Did they took your report?
UPD?
Yeah.
No, they didn't take my report. They said they couldn't only because it didn't happen with them, it happened with state police.
Okay, but did they say that they would forward your concerns to anyone?
Oh yes. They said they would talk to the campus police to let them know that was what happened and I was in it.
Okay, and did they get in touch with you?
Campus police? No.
So that was the end of it there?
Yeah.
Huh. Have you heard from them since?
No. I haven't heard from campus police after that.
Huh, okay. That's weird. So there was no follow-up?
Nope.
All right, that's something that we can think about.
No follow-up.
But they did, so the person that you spoke with, was there a report?
No, it wasn't a report. It was no report.
They didn't take anything there? Okay, interesting. All right, and so now it's like 3 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, like somewhere in there though.
Yeah. All right, so the next day you called your parents?
No, I called my parents as soon as I got into, matter of fact, I called my parents as soon as the cops drove off.
Okay.
And And I really got on the phone with my mom and my sister as soon as I got into the UPD
Okay.
part.
And they're okay?
Yeah.
So what did you do the next day?
The next day, that's when, so that night, I was, frustrated, highly frustrated. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have anybody to really, So that's when I sought out the help of Billy and Brown. I looked up Delhi news reporters online, and I got that number. And I left her a voicemail, and I was very surprised. She reached out to me the next day, right in the morning. So we started working from there.
Yeah. And working meaning trying to understand what happened.
Understand what happened.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
Great person.
And Lily and Cole me.
Yep.
Because she and I worked on a few things. All right, so I don't want to keep holding you because you've been here over an hour.
Oh,
But I'm back to, I'm somebody who likes to solve problems. And so if this happens again, maybe the local UP should be taking something down and should be following up with you.
Yep.
I mean, that might be something that we can orchestrate. Maybe that's something we could recommend. And see if we can make that policy. I've got this thing about anybody who comes on our premises, on this campus, there should be some policies around it. And if police other than UP stops anybody here, there should be something of a policy that goes to UP.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I actually do agree with that.
I mean, if you didn't go to UP that night, nobody would know. If you didn't go to Lily and Brown, nobody would know. If you didn't go to me, nobody would know. And that's why we have rumors about this stuff. And so I'd like to get rid of the rumors. If things are actually happening, I'd like to deal with the realities. And you can't deal with the realities if you don't see them and if you don't employ either the laws that are covering them, the policies that should, and the ethics that encompass. That's basically what I've been teaching for the last semester.
Yep.
And it just seems that right now they just disappear into the fog. So you're going to help me do that because now you're involved.
Yep.
And what's going to be really interesting for you, Giovanni, Gio, is no matter where you go, whether it's the Navy, whether it's policing, whatever you do, you're going to take this experience with you. And every police stop is going to be scrutinized by you in a whole different way. A whole different way. You're going to teach a lot of people what driving while black means.
Yeah.
And so the more you can think it through and articulate it, the better the teacher you're going to be. I'm just really proud of you.
I appreciate it. Honestly, do appreciate it.
To subscribe or advertise, call 607-464-4009.